How would you describe it in a sentence?
It's a tool to build your professional reputation and to build your connections, professional reputation. That would be, in a nutshell, what we're trying to do.
What gave you the inspiration to think about this rating system along those kind of gaming type of lines, Jonathen?
Well, that's a very interesting question because the underlying motivation is really the type of data that we want to capture. So the core insight that's driving Mixtent is that when you're trying to hire or get hired offline, recommendations and referrals are incredibly effective. But for some reason, they're not really working online. If you get a request for a recommendation on any service, they're socially awkward. You're wondering, should I give this guy a recommendation? Should I not? He already requested it. I feel awkward not giving it to him or her. And then you write, I love what Jonathan is doing. And God knows what you mean by that. Are you always like praising people that way? So certainly the systems online are not very are not well crafted to capture this type of data. And clearly also offline, this data works. It's useful. It gets you higher and it gets you the right candidates on the door. So what we thought is there a way of capturing data where the level of commitment that we're asking from people is lower and yet we get better data?
Yep.
So when we ask you, who would you rather work with as a, let's say, product manager, Mr. A or Miss B? If you choose A, you're not really endorsing A. You're not saying A is the greatest person in the world. I will vouch for him until the day I die. You're just saying, if I had to pick between these two persons, I would pick A. Now, that data point in itself is less valuable than a recommendation because, there's not enough there. But it's very high signal. It's a very specific question. Between A or B, who would you pick? Now, you can imagine if that we capture a lot of data around A, a lot of people who decided to pick A over C, D over A, someone E over A, we start learning about A a lot. And what we learn from A, it's similar to getting tons of recommendations in a different form. So actually the game mechanics, to your question, the game mechanics and the system for rating people, even though it's addictive and it's viral and brings a lot of people in, it actually captures the data that we want, which is a lot of information about A, cleaning a lot of the social awkwardness because we intermediate. The question is less compromising than outright endorsing someone. So again, the driver is actually the data that we want to capture. I would rephrase it if I could, saying the following. I think the recommendation system on LinkedIn is a feature on LinkedIn. Among many, many features. I think LinkedIn core feature is connecting you, having an online, persistent, up-to-date resume that is somewhat alive and connected with your professional recommendations. That's a core feature of LinkedIn. That's why LinkedIn is worth what it's worth. It's very difficult to do, very difficult to replicate, and they're the best at them. Then they have a lot of peripheral features that add value around that. The recommendations is one of those. And then I guess what I would feel is fair to say is that what they think of one additional feature which is important to them is our number one core feature, and we believe is the most important data point when trying to hire or getting hired.
How did you know that I'm gonna not get sort of annoyed by the amount of decisions I need to make? I mean, was it 25 I need to go through? I would suggest that certain people ain't gonna get through 5. Or they may start thinking, okay, I didn't realize this is what it is. I'm just going to click A's all the way through and get me out of this system, which obviously also degrades the data that you're capturing as well.
Well, there are two questions there, and the first one, building business on digital businesses or business on the internet as opposed to opening a pizza shop, in the other corner. And the reason is that you have data to make decisions. So the reason we know it's 25 is because people answered 25, and the way we came up to 25 is we tested. Should we ask 5 questions? We A/B tested. Should we ask 5 or 14, 10 or 12? And we came up and learned that the vast majority of people will actually answer 25. And so that's the first part. So So I presume some people would be annoyed. I presume some people wouldn't want to answer one question, and that's also fine. For 25 works. That'll be the short. But the other point, which is very relevant, that you just said is, are we sacrificing the quality of the answers because we're asking too much? You just want to go through them very quickly, and you don't want to take a look at them and whatnot. That can also be said if you have 7 questions or 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
But 25 just increases the risk. Is your point, and it's a valid one. And that's where we're pretty excited about what we're building. Most of our work, most of our effort, every day in and day out, goes kind of behind the scenes into the core algorithms that consume this data and try to extract meaning. And that's where we're more excited, and when we have to spend most of our time, in a whiteboard, doing math and having fun. And the reason is that we take everything into account. Are you going through the questions too quickly? Right. The point is that at some point you start getting so much data, and that you can start making statistical inference by people's behavior. And see, you're one of a lot of people. Are you going way faster than everyone else? Are you always clicking on the left? Are we serving you? Are we serving you type of questions that are less? So we have a confidence index on the relevancy of the questions that we're serving you. Sometimes we ask very relevant questions, and sometimes we don't. And you probably felt that. Some questions are, this is very interesting that you're comparing A with B. And then you're like, why are you comparing C with D? This makes no sense. And as people skip some of those questions, or they click on the I can't evaluate and say, this guy doesn't have this skill. And there are tens of thousands of people doing this. We fine-tune our system, but also learn to assess the value of your vote. I can give you some insights into kind of how I think about product development in cases like this, and how we're structuring, our own development in the next months or so. So, the way you think about, there are challenges of getting the right data, challenges of creating the right rankings, challenges of growing the user base, challenges of growing the number of votes people have, and then there are challenges of the core value proposition, helping you get higher, and retaining users with that core value proposition. So what I can say is that we're working on everything in parallel. So what I can say is that internally there are people who are in charge of fine-tuning the product so that we capture the right users, get the right questions, grow at the right rate. And there are other people working on, and these guys are running a sprint in a way, right? So we have goals that we measure day over day in a way. And then there's other guys who are what I call, they're running a marathon. And the marathon is, how can we return the value that you deserve for spending 2 minutes answering 25 questions? So you gave me a lot of data. The system is now way better because of you, thanks to you. We capture a lot of data about you, as if I voted for you. And the system is way better because you brought people who gave us data about you and some other people. Now it's our turn to return massive value back. And that's the core effort that we're building. And I would say that in the next quarter, you'll start seeing alpha versions, to selected few who will be able to test how the data that we capture can help you get higher, find the right people to work with. And it's still pretty preliminary, but it's incredibly excited, and we're thrilled. I think we're gonna be able to add a lot of value, and I think you're gonna be able to come back and chat with me in 4 months or so and say those 25 votes really added a lot of value. I'm connecting with the right people.
Some of the questions that people had on Mixtent was, okay, this is great. I'm kind of addicted to the idea of doing the compare contrast. You're kind of leveraging people's ego a little bit, aren't you? To get involved with it. But then maybe after you finish, you think, okay, what can I actually do with it? And you're saying this, you're gonna reveal something about what can be done in a couple of months' time. Is that right, Jonathen?
Yes, and again, the core value would reside in helping you hire and get higher. So if you're looking for a job, right, what we learn from you and your ranking, what we learn from you yields a ranking, which is important, but more importantly, it yields the type of people who would rather work with you than someone else.
Right.
Their skills, their preferences. So the ranking is important, and it carries a strong amount of signal even more important is what we learn from you as others think about you and how we can connect you with the company. And then if you're trying to hire, your votes are a great signal to understand the type of people you want, and we infer a lot of stuff, the strength of the relationship, if you work together or not, and then use that for if you're looking to hire an accountant or a chef or a Java developer, we can tell you, sure, these are the best Java developers, but for you, these are the best Java developers.
Yeah.
If you want to think about it from a very geeky perspective, we're building a recommendation engine that needs a collective intelligence engine to fuel data in, right?
Yep.
So if you think about saving all the huge differences, if you think about Google, Google is a recommendation engine. It's an engine that will recommend pages given a query that you have, right? And they're fueled by data that is out there. Pages linking to other pages, words in pages. Some other challenges require a collective intelligence engine. Think about Pandora, for example. They'll fuel the recommendation, they'll build a recommendation engine, but they need you to fuel it. And people to constantly say, like, don't like, like, don't like. Same thing with Mixtent. It's a recommendation engine, but we needed to build the collective intelligence engine first and make sure it works and captures the right data at the right scale. And that's where we are right now. Pretty satisfied and excited about the collective intelligence engine.
Yep.
And we hadn't started. By the time we started to build this one, we were already building the recommendation engine. It's just it's in the process of being built and being deployed in the next couple of months.
I spoke to a good friend of mine yesterday, and he told me that, hey, listen, there's a science behind color, right? And he said, hey, listen, actually green is the worst color you can use to convert people on a website. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not, but I have to ask you, why is Mixtent green, Jonathan? Are you going against science, or is he wrong, or what?
No, I think he is right in that there's a science to colors. He is wrong that green overall converts worst. I'm not sure. That's a good question. I don't know if green converts worst overall for every type of site. It might be the case. I'm actually not sure. What I can tell you is that green converts better than almost every color when sites are work-related, finance-related, and then if you go and see finance site and work site, they have two colors. They're either blue or they're green, for the most part. Many of them are green. So yeah, I actually, it's interesting that he mentions that because we were pretty scientific about it.
I was going to say, did you research this? I mean, you can educate me on
yes,
this.
Yes, of course.
I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, totally. I mean, there's plenty of articles on this. I'll find one and send you an email after the conversation. But yes. I mean, blue is the color that converts the best. But then there are colors which are more pertinent for specific types of sites.
Yeah.
You see a lot of entertainment sites that use purple and black, and that's on purpose, right? And again, as far as I understand, green converts very well on finance and work related stuff. And but there's also an interesting point about the meaning of data, right? It's interesting. It would be interesting if green converts worst overall.
In any site, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Overall, on average, green convert worst. It would be interesting if that's the case because the way of making these decisions when you're data driven is go to the absolute most, to the lowest detail. It doesn't matter if green converts worst overall. If it converts well for your category, then so be it, right? So yes, we did research it. I think green converts very well. It's doing very well for us. Well, we're running a non-profit foundation, so we don't expect to. No, I'm kidding. So sure. I mean, I don't want to reveal too many details on how we envision the business model to work and how we're going to charge. But superficially, what I can say is that I think we would agree that if I can help you hire and get higher, there's ways of monetizing that. And there are many models out there in which this is monetized. There's kind of the monster career builder type of model where people just pay to post jobs. There's the LinkedIn model where you get some access to some information for free, and then it's like a step function, and then you pay instead of getting access to other information, other channels of communications. The only thing I can say right now, and not to be secretive, but because we're testing this, and I'm not sure quite yet which one is the best model. But the only thing I can tell you right now is that what we're trying right now, what we're trying to explore and test, is neither one nor the other. We're thinking of a more kind of continuous, granular monetization model. That again, we're testing it, so there's not much I can say without, that I would have like a solid position on. But I can say that what we're exploring is we'll charge to help people hire and get hired. And it's very likely where we stand right now that it's not going to be like a freemium model or a kind of, pay up front, Monster.com type of model. It's going to be something a little bit more unique. How long until World Contest? I don't know, man. It's a good question.
I need a date. You got to give me.
You need a day. I see.
Yeah. I'm putting in the calendar.
I don't know. Before 2012, right? I guess that's when we're running out of time. So, so I've heard in the last billboard that I saw.